Hi, good morning. This is Gayatri Jayaraman. Welcome back to Shamaha. Those of you who've been logging in on a daily basis, nice to see you again. And those of you who are new, welcome. I hope you find something here that will benefit you in your day-to-day life. I hope you're having a great start to the week. Let's get started. So one thing I wanted to talk about today is recurring patterns. It's something that a lot of you have brought up in reference to my videos on resistance or on leaving the past behind. This is something that also comes up a lot in relationships. We seem to end up with the same kind of person or people who repeat the same mistakes, or we repeat the same mistakes. It happens in jobs. We try to get away from a certain kind of a boss, a certain kind of a workplace, and we end up in another which seems to just mirror the same. And there are times that this can cause us to spiral down and sort of ask, is it me, am I doing it wrong? And no matter what we do, we end up in the same situations again and again, and we can't seem to get out of that cycle. So, today I want to talk to you about recurring patterns, how to spot them, and what makes them occur, and what is the lesson in them for us, right? So, let's take a work situation. We start out in a particular kind of workplace, and it's really not good for us. It's toxic. There's a lot of bitching. There's a lot of politics. Promotions don't come through. Salaries doesn't rise. We're not getting the kind of work we want, and we're there. We're just sort of stationed there, and we're trying to figure out how to get out of this. So we apply for jobs. We get whatever's available to us, and we say, okay, this is a decent hike in salary, and we go. And then in a year, the same pattern occurs, right? And the same sense of feeling stuck happens there. And we think, if only my life could be different, if only I could make different choices. um, Now in relationships, when it's a pattern of abuse, right? So we get into a situation where either somebody's cheating on us, somebody's being abusive towards us, as physical violence, emotional violence, and we go to the next place and we say, why do I allow this? Why do I allow people to treat me this way? Why do I allow this to happen to me? So the first question is, am I allowing this to happen to me? I don't want it to happen. So then why is it happening? And how can I be the cause of it?
One of the reasons why we seem to constantly be bringing the previous situation into the next one is because we are resonating at an energy level of the previous situation. What we recognize and what we are become comfortable with is this sort of conflict, is this sort of negative patterning, is this resistance to the object, and therefore we when we exit that situation we're carrying that energy with us into the next one, and therefore in the next one also we gravitate towards what makes us comfortable, and what right now is making us comfortable is the previous pattern of conflict, of resistance, of obstacles, of negativity, of the push and pull, and therefore we are more likely to look for and find what makes us feel comfortable, and what right now is making us feel comfortable is that situation. Ah, but you'll say, no, I don't feel comfortable. If I felt comfortable, I wouldn't trying to be exiting that situation, right? Except that there is a pattern. And what do we mean by comfortable? That there is a recognition of a pattern. You've lived it so many times. You've gone through the cycle so many times. It is familiar to you. And what is familiar automatically becomes comfortable. It becomes a comfort zone. This is how victims become used to abuse, right? And this is why the next place you go, you fall into something that feels like you know it. And because the unknown, what is not this, is so distinct to you, it is so different that you don't yet know how you will feel in that situation. So subconsciously you're rewiring yourself um, to a whole new set of circumstances, a new set of feelings seems difficult. Therefore, you fall back into what comes easy, what comes familiar, what is recognized by your habit patterns. And this is what we mean by comfortable. That is why when you go from one conflicted situation to another, it is always easier to slip back into a pattern of conflict that you already know and are familiar with.
The first question is, how do you spot the pattern? So if you're dealing with a work situation, or you're dealing with a home situation or a relationship situation, I highly recommend you sit down and list. Just list the workplaces you've been at, just list the relationships you've been at, just list, say, the arguments with X person, and just look at them. Just put a date, say, um, I was in this office, or this date, reason of exit, this, reason of exit, this, join this place, reason of exit, this. And see if you can spot any commonalities. Don't assign blame. Don't, say it was his fault, my fault. Say, didn't get along with the boss, could not stand the workplace, toxic work culture, and put it down. Okay, same thing with relationships: abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, cheating, lying. What was the causes of the exit from that situation? And once you see more than two or three have the same reason, look, just observe the pattern. What is the pattern trying to tell you? Okay, the second aspect that I find important in looking at recurring patterns is look at the obstacle. The obstacle is one of the most important things in any relationship. It is telling you something about yourself, it's telling you about something about the person, it's telling you something about the situation. Okay, one, what is it telling you? One, that this is not suited to you. Second, why is it not suited to you? Either you're doing something wrong that makes you a misfit there, or you're doing something right that makes you a misfit there. Secondly, maybe that person is not responsive enough, or that situation is not responsive enough because it's not fulfilling your needs. So at any point when we have a conflict, there are three players. One is what you bring to the situation, second is what they bring to the situation, and third is the situation itself. When you look at these three, there is a problem in any one of them. And a problem not as in that person is to blame or you are to blame, but there's something you want that is not being fulfilled, or an expectation that is not being met. So it's important to look at the obstacle and say, what is the obstacle pointing to? Where is the problem? Is the problem in me? Are my expectations too high? Am I going at it with, say, too much emotion? Am I, not delivering what is required to be delivered? Is the problem the boss? Is the problem the workplace? Is the problem the profile of the work? Be very clear about what you're looking at in terms of the situation. And then the overall situation. Was this suited to me? Okay. The third thing I want you to get into is, why am I here? Okay, why am I in this relationship? Why am I in this workplace? Why am I dealing with this boss? Is it something I chose, or is it something I ran into? Is it something that just came to me? Now, it's very essential to start tracing back these patterns, because they reveal a lot about why we do the things we do, and therefore how we cause the patterns to recur. For instance, when I went down this path of inquiry, I realized that a lot of workplaces that I took to were not workplaces that I chose because I enjoyed the work, or that was something I wanted to specialize in, but it was something that happened to be available, the first job that came along, the salary I wanted, the designation I wanted, right? So then when you get into it and say you get what you want, Say you get A, you say, I want a specific salary, and you take the job that's giving you the specific salary. Then the salary goes to the back burner. What you're left with is the work, the workplace, the work culture, the boss, and all of that. And you've not looked at all of that when you got in. You just said, are they giving me the salary I want? So now, when you're left dealing with the aftermath of receiving that salary, it's all the things you didn't want. So you haven't actually looked at what you wanted. You've looked at what is available and what seems to hit one or two points that you had in mind. So, why did you make that choice? Often we find when we trace back, we make that choice as an outcome of the previous place we were working. So let's say I was working in a place where I really liked the work culture. I was very happy, but I really felt underpaid. So when I left from there, I told myself I would get something that really valued me in terms of my pay, because that was the mistake I felt I was making. So now I've gone to this new place where they're paying me what I want, but I haven't checked the other factors, right? Because I didn't keep that as a priority or keep that as a criterion in my mind. Also, the second place has come as a reaction to the first place. It is not a natural progression in growth. It's not a response. It's not come as a sense of self-evaluation, saying, what do I want? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to take this career? It's come as, they didn't give me, so now I'll go get this somewhere else. If you notice, we do this quite often, even in relationships. I'm in a relationship, it's 60% happy, 40% it's not giving me what I want. So I go after something that's giving me the 40% that I want. And now I'm left with the 40% and the 60% not clicking. Right? So, whenever we take up an option that is a reaction to the previous state of existence, then it is not going to be fulfilling, because we are focusing again on what we don't have and trying to fulfill that, rather than what we have and trying to build on that. Which brings us to the next point, which is, what do you want? When we've realized why we've been going after certain things that don't work for us, the question is really about sitting down and saying, but what is it I absolutely want? Not just want in terms of, yes, I want bigger pay, but I also want the job satisfaction. Maybe I want fame. Maybe I want a certain recognition. Maybe I want to be the boss's right hand person. When you sit down and make this list of what it is you actually want, it's important to be remove all the filters, remove all the obstacles, and be brutally honest with yourself. If money was no object, if constraints were no object, if you're without constricting yourself with your own sense of what you should dream about and what you should not dream about, what is allowed, what is not allowed, what is egoistic, what is not egoistic. If you could do anything in that workplace, what would you want to do? Right? Maybe you'd say, I want to head a department. I want to lead a team. I want to bring out this special supplement. Put it all down, whatever it is. I want to win awards. I want to, start my own YouTube channel. I want to be famous. I want to write books. I want to give talks. I want to be a speaker. Whatever it is, that is your no holds barred goal. Okay? Put that down in its entirety. When you've put it all down, and it could be something far more simpler. It could just be, I want to be the most popular person in the workplace. I want to have a big group of friends. And I know from a lot of you that, the social aspect of the workplace is very important to you. Some of you, for instance, who are separated from your partners, who are in other countries, and you're here, the workplace becomes the social aspect. And so it's important for you to feel a part of the workplace. That's perfectly fine. There's nobody there to tell you this goal is, too childish or shouldn't be, or that's not what you should expect from a workplace. That really doesn't matter. It's perfectly valid to want to feel, for example, safe at a workplace. Maybe that's a priority for you. Yes, you want to feel safe. You want a women-centric workplace. Go ahead and put it down. When you've put down all the factors that work for you, is it close to home? Is the commute not a pain? Does it have fixed hours? It can be what other people think are not important. It doesn't matter. Put it all down. Then look at it and say, what can I get me that gives me the most of these? right? So if something gave you then 80% of these, but the pay wasn't as much as you were expecting, um, that might make a better fit for you because it's fulfilling much more. So now what is happening is you're working towards what you are, what you want, what you have. You're building on the base of what works for you. When you build on the base of what works for you, then whatever you do is going to be much more productive, creative, and fulfilling because you are fulfilling yourself first. The same thing applies to relationships. When we get into relationships, we say, what did I not have that I want? Right? Um, Instead, get into it saying, what do I want? What values me? What builds on me? What sort of encourages me, brings out the best in me? Where can I put the most of myself? And you'll find that what you really want out of a relationship really changes when you align that goal with what your internal needs are, what you need fulfilled, rather than um, what becomes essentially an external filling of a gap. When we're running to fill these gaps, then we are only looking for stopgaps, right? Nothing that is a stopgap is going to last, and also nothing that comes as a reaction to a previous effect is going to have a stable outcome. Any reaction is going to need another reaction, because a reaction will have an effect. That effect will be based on the past, and that again is going to lead to a reaction. Okay, so let's say I was in a relationship that was really abusive. I left it, and all I want is a guy who's really kind and not at all physically and emotionally abusive to me, which is very valid. But I haven't seen if he has any of the other factors that make me feel happy. Is he financially secure? Is he stable? Is he does he have the kind of family I feel like I want to fit into? Do we have common interests? So in the interest of this one thing, I've sacrificed everything else. And I find that therefore now, even though I'm not feeling abused, I'm in this relationship with which everybody thinks I should be satisfied with, but I'm not satisfied with. Why? Because it doesn't fulfill all my other needs. Same thing with the workplace, right? So as we go from workplace to workplace, relationship to relationship, it can be our friendships, it can be with parents, it can be with neighbors, it can be with the kind of house that we live in. We say, I live in this house, it doesn't have a view. I want the next house I move to, it must have a view. It has a view, but it's a terrible society. There's no place to walk. There's a stink of garbage. There's so many things we haven't looked into. So it's very essential to align with what you want, but what you want has to be broad. It has to be all encompassing. It has to be everything you want, not just based on a reaction to the previous thing and what is lacking, right? Once you have aligned your goal with what you want, then look at the steps to see why this is recurring. When you look back at that original list that you made in point one of the patterns which are emerging, you'll see that very often you've not looked at what you really wanted. Now, some of you have brought up the issue of, I'm stuck in this relationship or partnership and it's a recurring pattern. It's an everyday fight. It's the same things happening again and again, and I don't know how to get out of it. Look at that string of cause and effect and your reaction, right? Something happens. If you're responding in exactly the same way each and every time, you're going to get the same exact reaction again, right? Because every cause has an effect, every effect has a reaction, every reaction creates another cause, every cause creates another effect, and so on. The cycle is endless. So let's say there's an argument, and every time there's an argument, you're reacting in exactly the same way. Maybe there's shouting, maybe there's words, maybe there's accusations, maybe there's storming off, there's sulking, there's silence. Let's say this is the pattern, and then it takes 2 days, and then you'll come back to normal and then talk to each other again. What can you do? What is the firstly the response that you want, and what is it that you can do to create that response you want? Let's say you want somebody to help out around the house and the person just simply doesn't do it. If clearly this pattern of behavior or reactiveness has not created the response you want, you have to change the response you want once you decide what you want. So I want so and so to help me with this. What are the things I can do to make that person want to do it, because after all, we don't control others, we can't force others to do what we want them to do. Can we say, hey, if you can help me out with this, I'll have time to prepare a treat. Maybe I can bake a cake. Maybe I can make that thing you want, but I'm just really snowed down. If you could just help out with this, it would really help me out. Can we change the way we put things across? Can we offer incentives? Can we, sort of segregate, make a chore list? Is the person forgetful? Do they say they will do things, mean to do it, and then not do it? Can we create a timetable? There are so many other ways in which to get across that this is something that needs to be done on a daily basis. Is other things you can do for that person so that they have free time, and then they're able to help you out with what you want to do. These kind of things, a little bit of give and take, a little bit of structure, a little bit of routine, um, and a little bit of communication will help you break that pattern. And soon you'll find that you're responding to what needs to be done rather than reacting to what is not done. And once you achieve this, first is figure out the pattern. What is the pattern that is recurring in your lives? Second is look at the chain of cause, effect, and reaction. Why did you get into that situation? Where did it come from? And what is it that you're sort of reacting to repeatedly? Third, what is it that you want to do that will help achieve where you want to go? And therefore, you'll find that the track that you take to achieve what you want is going to break that pattern. Because often we are stuck in these patterns because we are constantly doing the same thing. This happens because we're not listening to the obstacle. The more we listen to the obstacle, we see it and we know that why it's there. We'll realize that it's sometimes protecting us, it's sometimes diverting us, it's telling us to look inward, it's telling us to go another way, it's telling us to try another aspect. Listen to the obstacle. See what is not resonating between you and the situation and the third party in the situation, and change what you can change. You can't change the other person, you can't change the situation. What you can do, you can bring about a change in are your own actions, your own reactions, your own responsiveness, and the way you look at and deal with the situation. So I hope in this way you're able to look at recurring patterns in your life and sort of reconfigure them so that you can get to going to where you want rather than going around in that same little loopy circle. And I think it's very true that whenever there's a recurring pattern, it's trying to tell you something about your life, the situation, and the people you're dealing with. So it's necessary to examine that and find a way to break that pattern. I hope this helps you out. And do leave your comments, questions, and suggestions in the box below. And I'll be happy to include them in future sessions that I do. And let me know how this worked out for you.